Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout as we look ahead to game week 7. It's team news time, and to join me to discuss all the latest injury and team news developments is Neale, Fantasy Football Scout's editor. Neale, welcome. How are you?
Not too bad, Joe. Yeah, a little bit later this week because we pre-arranged a time,
Yeah.
but that has allowed us to see, I think, every single press conference now.
Yes.
So we've got all 20 clubs to bring in.
Yes, I've managed to get Aston Villa's tweet on screen as well. That's how good this scheduling has been. Okay, we can move straight on. But before we do that, just welcome those joining us in the live chat. Welcome to FPL Big Head. I think he was the first one here. Andersoni, Tiger, FPL Marshall, Ignatius, Referee, Colm, Thomas, Pride, Rodrev, BB Defender, and many more. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's hope we give you the team news that you require. Let's start off with Crystal Palace, Liverpool. There's a strong chance of team leaks reaching our way in the morning. This is the lunchtime Saturday game. We might need them as well, given there were some midweek games and the likes of Diaz may or may not start. But let's go with the home side first. Crystal Palace, what's the latest there?
Yeah, not much has changed really. Riyad, Decore, and Richards are still out. Frank had been on the cusp of a return, but then he suffered a separate issue. I think it's a groin injury, and he's going to be out for much of the rest of the year. So still 4 red flags. Everyone else is fine.
Okay, and as for Liverpool, I'll ask you what the latest news is there, and then I'll ask you what your feeling is as to who's going to start up top. So what's the latest injury-wise there?
Yeah, pretty quiet on the injury front. Elliott's still out, as we knew. Chiesa's the sort of doubt that Slot's got. He wasn't involved in midweek against Bologna. He had some problems. Those were Slot's words. And he hadn't trained actually until today. He was going to see if he could train this afternoon, but even if he could, Slot was hinting that he wouldn't risk him. Anyone else who had concerns or had little knocks, like Jota, for example, he recovered to be involved in that Champions League squad. He was on the bench for that. Robertson as well. He came off with a knock last weekend, but he's fine. So now it's just about less about injuries and more about preferred personnel after that midweek game. Because as you said, Joe, not just a lunchtime kickoff, but it was a Wednesday night game as well. So there's little more than 60 hours between the two.
Yeah, certainly. So Diaz started, came off at 70 minutes or so.
Yep.
Also, we don't know who's going to start. I have Jota, Darwin Núñez. So it's between Gakpo and Diaz, really. So let's assume that Salah's going to start, especially with that news about Chiesa. There's no doubt there, I don't think. But yeah, what's your instinct there? Do you think Diaz will be rested? I mean, because it's just international break coming up, so Liverpool don't really, ideally, perhaps shouldn't care.
Yeah, the thing is, there's not as much of a quality drop off. It's not like they're losing that much. I mean, Diaz has been excellent. Don't get us wrong, but Gakpo's been arguably just as good when the minutes he's had. He's been excellent in the Champions League. So I am thinking at the moment in my predicted lineup it is Salah, Jota, and Gakpo on the left. Right. We'll see what the Liverpool experts think in the coming hours, and then of course we will hopefully get a team league. So rendering all this discussion moot. But my thinking at the moment is Jota, Gakpo, and Salah in the front three. But
okay, right, Joe. I might, as a Diaz owner, I may have a decision to make tomorrow, and many others may as well. Let's move on to Arsenal Southampton. A lot of us wildcarded to get Arsenal in, assets in. Let us down a little bit last week, but home to Southampton, you would imagine they'll do a bit better. What's the latest from Arsenal?
Yeah, quite a bit to bring you here. So existing ones who are still out: Odegaard, Zinchenko, and Tierney. Marino is back. He came on as a substitute in midweek. Tommy Asun, I think, is the next one off the rank. He's in training, but he's been out for a long time. So I think we'll see him on the bench before he's in the starting 11. So the two sort of ongoing concerns are Timber and White. White, he hasn't been seen in 3 games. And in the one before that, he was only a substitute against Man City. And then Timber, he came off at half time. Arteta originally said it was a precautionary measure, and that Timber had felt some sort of muscular discomfort. He then went on to say about him playing too many minutes recently. And then this afternoon, he said that those two have had modified training this week. I think one of the Sky Sports reporters said that was the case again today as well.
Okay.
But not full training. So you've got to it's kind of reverse psychology with Arteta sometimes, isn't it? Because he was very cagey on Raya and saying he was a doubt, and then today he says um, Timber and White are close. So I'm thinking that neither of them starts,
Yeah,
and
that
that he
does.
doesn't risk them.
Yeah, I mean, he did
You
the
kind of got
usual
to, yeah,
with
yeah. I
Raya
think,
last week with the photos. Did the usual
yeah,
training round, and then the no pictures of him at the hotel, and then suddenly,
yeah,
as if by
yeah,
magic, he appears in
yeah,
the lobby of the hotel. So yeah, okay, yeah, I think we're getting a steer on Arteta now.
yeah. Timber. I mean, White's been out for a little while, so I would have assumed they wouldn't risk him. Timber. It's not just the muscle tightness, but the comments from Arteta as well about him playing too many minutes, so that they have to sort of take care of him a bit more. That makes me think, especially given the caliber of opposition. No offense to Southampton, but we saw in midweek, Calafiori went to right back when Timber came off, and then it was Kyo on the left. So that might be the case again. They've also got option of playing Thomas Partey as well as an inverted right back.
Ooh,
So I would
okay.
not be surprised if neither of them are risked.
Okay, rightio. I seem to remember when that happened with Party before. Didn't that mean Gabriel missed out?
Yeah, it did,
I don't
but
want
I very
that.
much doubt that's going to happen this time. Yeah,
We don't want that.
no.
Okay, yeah, Southampton. Have we got news from them?
We have yesterday. This was one of 6 press conferences on Thursday. Same as pretty much on the team news front. Bazunu's still out. Stevens is suspended again. He had served a 3-match ban and then has got slapped with another 2 games for swearing. Smallbone and Sulemana still out as well. They're short-term injuries. They should be back after the break. Um, Nothing else new in the injury front. There was a quote about Ross Stewart, who was the cheapest forward in the game, 4.6 cheapest playing forward, I should say, in the game. He's been mostly limited to substitute appearances so far. But Martin was talking him up yesterday, saying he did great, and that he should have played with a 9 against Bournemouth. So he's in the mix. If not this week, I think it might still be too soon. But he might be challenging for a start sometime soon with the ongoing goal shortage.
Yes, he was mentioning as well during the week that perhaps it's time to rely on those bit
Yeah,
more on those championship players, even though he was injured for a lot of last season in the championship, but he
yeah,
was nevertheless a member of the squad. So
yeah.
yeah,
And
okay, yeah.
that comment came about 2 weeks after he said maybe I've been too loyal to the championship players, and
Ah.
it's time to give the new. So he's throwing everyone under the bus now.
I've
No
got
one's
a
in the good books.
feeling this sounds beginning of the end to me.
I was thinking that as well.
I
Yeah,
think he'll be the first one to go,
yeah, I agree.
which is a shame. Let's move on to Brentford against Wolves. What's the latest from Brentford? They've got quite a lengthy injury list, I understand, at the moment.
They do, yeah. It hasn't shortened too much, but they do get one player back this week, and that is Norgard, who hasn't been out for too long. And if he's fit, fully fit, then he obviously starts. Aside from that, Enrico Henry's back in training. Actually, he's been out for a long, long time. He had previously returned to training and then picked up another issue. He won't be involved this weekend, but then after the break, we'll see what happens there. That could have ramifications for Vandenberg because at the moment they've got 2 centre halves playing in the full back positions, Ayer and Vandenberg. Of
Okay.
course, Henry will come in at left back when he is fit, which will be a while. Aside from that, though, Hickey's still out. Thiago, De Silva, Wissa, Nunez, and Jensen, they're all out as well.
Okay, and as for Wolves, they were. I mean, they didn't do too badly last week, considering they went into this
No.
with lots of injuries and there was an illness in their ranks. But yeah, what's the latest for them as they prepare to face Brentford and their inevitable first 3-minute goal?
Yeah, there was lots of talk about that today from both managers. Um, they've got a slight boost, Wolves. They were looking really stretched last weekend, especially at centre half. But Dawson has been back in training partly after illness, if not fully. And Santiago Bueno, who came off or certainly complained of tightness in that Liverpool game, he is trained and he's all right. So that is a bit of a double boost at centre half.
Okay.
They've still got 5 players out. Mosquera, Traore are the notable ones, and either Gonzalez as well. Another 2 names I'll butcher, but they won't trouble the starting 11 anyway.
No. Okay. Let's move on to Leicester, Bournemouth, 2 teams that they've been pretty good actually for injuries. Not too many, but yeah. What's the latest with Leicester? Just a few of the long-term injury problems, I imagine.
Yeah, and a fresh addition to that list as
Oh,
well.
okay.
Hamza Chowdhury, who hadn't been playing anyway. He has dislocated his shoulder. Could be up for a little while. And as you say there, Daka and Stolacic, the goalkeeper, is still sidelined as well. Vestergaard's back in training. He has been out for a little while with an ankle injury, being named in the Denmark squad as well. So he's obviously nearing fitness.
Okay, right, yeah. And for Bournemouth as well, they are actually usually injury free.
Yeah, they are, and
Yeah.
they're almost completely injury free because the one absentee, Tyler Adams, he's going to return to training over the break. So
Oh, okay.
nearly a fully fit squad.
Right, yeah. Let's move swiftly to Manchester City, Fulham. Yeah, there's some injury concerns at Man City.
There are. It's pretty much the same as was last weekend. Obviously, Rodri, Bob, and Ake still out. De Bruyne won't recover in time for this one either. There had been talk that he might be back for Fulham. It's not going to be the case. He's out with the Belgium squad as well. No concerns about Haaland either. Of course, he came off. He didn't actually come off against Newcastle. He played
Okay.
on the entire 90 minutes with a. You saw the pictures of his bloodied Achilles, and then but he was back in the starting 11 on Tuesday. Got through an hour, and Guardiola was asked this afternoon if he was okay. He had one word response. Yep.
Okay, good stuff. I shall keep the captain on him and hope for a hat trick, not another blank. I might have cursed him now. Fulham, like Bournemouth, often quite injury free.
Yeah, two sort of peripheral squad players really were the only absentees. Vinicius and Cuenca as well, the backup centre halves. They're still out, but everyone
Okay.
else is okay.
Right, Joe. Let's move swiftly on to West Ham. Ipswich, what's the latest from the Hammers?
The only confirmed absentee is Fulkrug again, who he hasn't featured since the September internationals when he went away with Germany. I think he was back in training last week, but maybe it's a setback because he's still out. Alvarez is back from a war match ban as well, so there is just that one red flag on
Okay.
Fulkrug.
Okay, right, yeah. And as for Ipswich, what shape are they in for this?
Again, just one flag. Just the midfielder has a little issue with his knee, according to McKenna. So he's going to miss this one. Could be back thereafter. That's pretty much it. Although McKenna did say that he's got one or two carrying little issues, and there might be some changes to the team as a result. He
Oh,
didn't name names, so
okay.
do be prepared for maybe a surprise on the team sheet.
Okay, well, I think Delap and Davis will probably be the main ones
Yeah,
in fantasy managers teams
yeah,
to look out for. But there's no hint that it's them. But
no.
never know. Everton against Newcastle. What's the latest from Everton?
Yeah, so the press conference itself was pretty low key. Coleman, Shemiki, and Broja, we knew about them. They're still out. And Patterson is just match fitness holding him back.
Okay.
He's played now twice for the under 21s. So all was well, really, after the presser. But then yesterday evening, news emerged that Branthwaite was a doubt
Ah.
with a quad injury, which wasn't mentioned by Dice. And then this morning, I see suggestions that Mikalenko might be injured as well with a calf problem. So they
Oh.
just got their first choice, well, near enough their first choice backline available. And then we've got two potential injuries. I say potential because Brantford's the only one that's been covered by the national press. Mikalenko is still sort of like an online rumor at the moment.
Okay.
That's not really confirmed. But yeah, great news for us Newcastle fans if
Ah.
they are down those two.
Yes, bad news for Rico Lewis owners who've got Mikalenko as a backup like me.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, Newcastle. Yeah, they Isak missing last time. Is he gonna be missing again?
It will be. Yeah, we've got our own problems, of course. Did well last week without him, but yeah, he's a massive miss. He's not going to be back for this one. But like Callum Wilson, they're both aiming for game week 8 returns after the break, as is Lewis Miley. Botman and Lascelles, they're out longer term. There was a flurry of yellow flags both before and after that Wimbledon game in midweek. Fabian Schär and Dubravka came off in that match. Pope and Trippier missed it. So Schär and Pope should be available. That's a good thing. An ankle and knee problem, respectively. And Howe said this morning that he hopes Trippier will be fit as well. This said the worst of the lot. It's still not too bad. Is Dubravka? He wouldn't have featured anyway. Took a whack to his knee. The scan is just showing bruising, but he might miss this one regardless.
Okay, right, yeah. Aston Villa, Manchester United. Well, quite a lot from Aston Villa and suggestions that that Duran could be up front and start this game.
Yeah, and before panic any Watkins owners, that would be alongside him and not
Yes.
instead of. However, there are other alternatives. So I'll run you through the injuries first. McGinn still out, obviously. Mings and Kamara as well. Probably going to get some minutes over the break. Been out for a long, long time. Cash is back. He was in the squad on Wednesday, but he didn't feature as a substitute. So again, probably going to be on the bench. So this is where the Duran suggestions come into play, because they're probably or possibly going to be down two wingers. So Ramsey came off in the first half of that Bayern game with a groin injury. The man who replaced him, Leon Bailey, he came off, having substituted on himself. He had picked up an injury in training before the game, actually, and he was restricted to bench duty. But even then, he didn't look fit. And Emery says this afternoon that they're both doubts, and it'll be tight for them being involved. The other player to come off, Anana, seemed to be finishing, feeling his hamstring. Emery seemed more confident about him. He says he thinks he's going to be available. So back to those two wingers, yeah. So if Ramsey and Bailey are out, I would expect probably Philogene to take one of the wings, and then the other one would either be Rodgers or Matson, perhaps. Matson it was who replaced Bailey in midweek. So if Rodgers does move to that left and Philogene on the right, then there's a room for a central figure alongside Watkins. Now that could be Duran. It could also be Tielemans. It could be Bartley.
Right.
So there's even with all those absentees, there's no guarantee Duran.
Oh, right.
In the starting 11, he'd be absolutely miffed if he does miss out on that.
He'll just come on and score. Just be so angry.
Yeah. Why change with the formula, I suppose, if you're Emery? The thing is, Rodgers has been so good in that central position. You're kind of moving him to possibly a position where he won't be as effective. But there's definitely a good chance Duran starts. FPL Villain, who's a trustworthy sort on Twitter, he suggests he might.
Okay.
But I have got Duran benched in my predicted. I mean, at the moment.
Right. Okay.
Unless I hear anything more with Matson playing on the left, so we'll see.
Okay, Bruno Fernandes, I hastily on the Goals Imminent podcast had to put him back in because his red card rescinded. But fortunately for red card fans, he got another one in Europe this week.
He did.
Will he go for the hat trick?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, he's available for this one, as you said there, Joe. He had that red card rescinded, and he's available. Injuries, so Yoro, Malacia and Shaw are still out. Kobbie Mainoo, he actually flew to Portugal for that game against Porto last night, but wasn't risked. He has been in training since, so I think he's going to be all right. Okay. Ten Hag said this afternoon that he'll just have to wait and see if he can play from the start or on the bench, but he's going to be fine. Mount's the other one. He didn't travel to Portugal. Dual problem with him, head injury and a knock.
Okay.
We didn't get an update, but again, probably wouldn't have started anyway.
Okay, rightio. Let's go for Chelsea against Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest fans will hope that their defence is better than Brighton's, and that Palmer is a bit quieter in this game. But yeah, what's the latest from Chelsea?
Nothing new, Joe, really. Certainly not on the injury front. James and Kellyman still out. Carney Chukwuemeka is the only fresh flag, and that's due to illness. But again, like the names I mentioned above, he wouldn't have trouble to start 11 by a long shot. Everyone else is fine.
Okay, and Nottingham Forest, Morgan Gibbs-White, he'd be back, won't he?
He certainly will. Yeah, just a one-match ban for him, so he's available. And nothing new on the injury front, according to Nuno, so just the long-term ones. Danilo and Sangari are out.
Okay, right, yeah, let's move to the final game, Brighton against Tottenham. Home game for Brighton. They will hope that they can stop conceding for this one. What's the latest from Brighton? Quite a bit of news, actually, from Brighton.
Yeah, a lot to get through here. Starting with the positives, so Milner, Gruder, and March could all be back there. And options, I think, was the words of Hurtela. So they could be certainly on the bench at least. Now the three red flags. Actually, two more positives, or one more positive. Veltman's back as well. Mm-hmm. He returned from illness. Adingra's still a doubt, so he was only a precaution last weekend. And he might not be risked. I think that's what Hurtela was kind of hitting at this afternoon. We have to be careful with him, so I think he's going to not risk him. Yeah. So yeah, onto the red flags, which are probably more pertinent for every fantasy manager. Van Heck's out, and he's confirmed himself that the timeline's around about 6 weeks, although he hoped to be a bit sooner than that. O'Reilly's still out as well, of course. Louis is back in the gym and in rehab. And Pedro, of course, he was already red flagged, but we thought was relatively minor. Now, there's an interesting quote from Hurtela this morning where he grouped Pedro with O'Reilly and Van Heck as a long-term injury. Mm-hmm. Now, 6 weeks is
Yeah.
is Van Heck, so that's long term in Hurtela's eyes. And then he said a quote which I think's been interpreted in different ways. So I'll give you the exact quote. He said about Van Heck. He said, "I don't know. We have to go week for week. I think that it's not that bad. Like for example, the issue for Joao. So does he mean Pedro's issue is not that bad, or does he mean Van Heck's issue is not as bad as Pedro's?
I
So there's
take
different ways.
I take that
Yeah,
to mean like Pedro is got an injury, but it's not like ACL or something. It's like he's being monitored. He might be back within a few weeks, and
that's
there
what I
isn't.
took it as. Yeah, yeah,
And Van Heck's similar. In which case,
yeah,
6 weeks. If that's 6 weeks from the injury, he could be back in a month,
yeah.
and Pedro could be back in a month too. So it says to me they're both going to miss the first game back after the internationals.
Yeah.
Therein, we may start seeing them.
I took it as that as well, but I did see other people on social media, and this is the danger with just taking a quote out of context, suggesting that Pedro was going to be out for longer than Van Heck, like 6 to 10 weeks. But I don't think that's what Hurtela meant. I
No,
might be wrong,
I didn't get that.
based on
Just
last week's update either. So, yeah, if
yeah,
you've seen timelines of 6 to 10 weeks for Pedro, I would take that with a pinch of salt.
yeah. So that'll probably mean Ruta starts up front with Welbeck, I would imagine, and Minter and Matoma on the flanks there. I would imagine, and Hinchelwood might get a game. I don't know what will happen with Webster, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, he could go. He could go three at the back. He could go. I think Igor's still on our books.
Eagle came on last weekend, didn't he? And he
Yeah,
didn't do
yeah.
too badly. So, yeah, he could. I mean, he's more of a left footer, isn't he? Like Dunk. Maybe slightly lopsided, but
Yeah.
yeah, it could go three at the back, as you said, Joe.
Could do, but yeah, I put something up on my X account. Actually, there was something. The Argus, the Evening Argus, which is a local paper, their journalists, they're going to do an embargoed section that will be tomorrow morning. He also said that he has asked Herzl about the high line they use against so spectacular against Chelsea, and he says he's got a new slant on that. So hopefully that new slant is we're not going to use it, or I mean it could be our defenders are going to go even further up. I don't know.
Maybe over the slanting about 50 yards further back towards their own goal.
Yeah,
That would be
yeah, I
ideal.
think so. But there'll be some more details tomorrow about that. But the reason I bring that up is not necessarily because of Brighton; it's because of Spurs. So let's go on to Spurs
Yeah.
as well, because
Yep.
people with their attackers will be licking their lips after seeing Brighton's defence last
Yeah.
time out.
They sure will. Unfortunately, if you own Son, it doesn't look like you're going to see him because Postecoglou said this morning that he's unlikely to feature. He's pushing hard, but he thinks it's going to be too soon. So he's probably going to miss out, along with Richarlison and Odebear. Good news for Johnson. Udogi, so that's the positive news. He sat out the Ferencvaros game last night, but he's probably going to be all right. Postecoglou again said this morning that we think he's going to be okay.
Okay.
Got to get through training, but should be fine.
Right, yeah, and of course midweek they played pretty much a B team,
Yeah.
so everyone should be fit, apart from obviously Son, but the other usual names that will be in it fantasy managers' sides. Okay, let's have a look at the roundup. It's so available. Vestergaard, Gruder should be available for Brighton, so he may come on. March as well. Veltman we might see. I would imagine we'll see Veltman. We may see March. Milner could be back. And Fernandez is available. I just put him in because that red card's been rescinded. Questionable. Patterson, you can add Mikalenko to that if the rumours are true. Trippier, a Dingra, Chiesa's got a knock, a doggy thigh problem, makes him questionable, but he should play. Mount, head injury still. Mainu, fitness problems might keep him out. White, Timber, Tomiyasu, questionable there. And Ramsey and Bailey out of the wing for Villa may not make it as well, so that could prompt a change in attack. Majored out Son with a hamstring. The quote was unlikely to play from the manager there. Out Fulkrug again with Achilles problem. Isak and Wilson. So I put Wilson in here now because if he could be nearing a turn, so that means we might see some Wilson minutes at some point soon. Pedro for Brighton still out with an ankle problem. Van Heck is out with groin for about 6 weeks, we think. Rico Henry, fitness problems. We'll keep him out, but he's sort of back in training, we think. Reece James, once again, the reason is Reece James. De Bruyne, groin problems. Nathan Ake, muscle problems, we'll keep him out. And John McGinn is still injured as well. So I think we've got most of those there. Good luck with your game week, Neale. Good luck, everyone watching and listening. Good luck with those final decisions, and hope we've given you the team news that you require as you go into game week 7. Thanks a lot for that. Do press that like button, does help us out. Do remember to subscribe, keep up to date with our latest videos and podcasts. Take care. See you soon.
Thanks for watching. Bye bye.